Since we're waiting, just a reminder, if you're new or haven't done this yet, to request membership on Sun Devil Sync. That helps with funding. Do our membership intake form so we have an idea of how many t-shirts to order. And then fall dues, we are putting a deadline on them to be paid by Monday, 10 p.m. All money goes tonight. I'm not touching it. So just a reminder what dues do for you. So dues get you a t-shirt. They also get you voting privileges and raffle privilege. So if you want to be a part of the raffle, you got to pay your dues. You can either pay the $5 for just the semester, or you can do $10 for the full year. Anyway, we'll keep track of it. So. I just got I'm like, you squeeze it, right? But it's a good show. Okay. All right. We're gonna go ahead and just get started. Over here really quick. All right. So I'm navigating Zoom. Hi, everybody. So welcome to MTSO today. If you didn't know already, we're doing internship advice and prep today. Never too early to get started. That's what I've heard from every single alumni, is that if you haven't started yet, get started right now. So first, Dr. Belgrave is going to talk to us a little bit about, she graciously gave some of her precious time to us today. So she's going to speak to us for about 20-ish minutes about internship and that whole process. So Dr. Belgrave, time is yours.
Where do you want me to be?
Up front preferably, because we're gonna set up our camera so that we can film the video meeting.
No, you can stay there. I see. Okay. Can I sit down?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. I know, I can always tell where you are in the process by when I say that word. Those who are in the junior year, that when I say internship, they're like, yeah. And if you're a senior, I get all like, oh God, no, why? Sorry, y'all. Okay, so I want to talk to you about internship and prepping and all of that kind of stuff. And I always like to tell people, like, for myself, what happened. So obviously I have 3 degrees in music therapy, and I've worked for a long time as a music therapist. And I'm a professor, right? But even for me, I didn't get my internship, the first one that I thought. I started applying summer before senior year. I just knew I was going to be working in children's hospitals and all sorts of things. I would go to conference, I'd have my interviews, it sounds so good, and I get a less polite, no thank you. So I actually walked across the stage in May, still had no internship, moved back to my parents' house in Chicago, still had no internship, and was constantly combing the site and expanding where I think I might want to go and what might be right for me. And so I didn't actually start my internship till October after graduation, and it was in a teeny town in Waco, Texas, at a school district that I would have never thought I would have ended up there. And that was the beginning of my life changing, because once I went to Texas, I loved Texas and I never wanted to leave. And so I got a job in Austin afterwards, and that was my whole trajectory changed. So just the idea that, yes, some people are very lucky. They get the internship they want in the location they want at the start that they want. But that does not happen to everybody at the same time, right? But one of the things we do cultivate is joy. So if someone gets the internship that you applied for, then that's not yours. Then we can be happy for them and still sad that we haven't found our spot. And just as I was telling Daniel earlier this week, I have taught for 14 years now. This is my 14th year of college teaching, and I've never had a student not get an internship. It's not a thing. So say that with me. I will get an internship. Say it with me.
I will get an internship.
Now, depending on what your constraints are, if you have to stay at the same city where your university is, you may get an internship, but it might not be on your start date. Say that with me. I will get an internship, but it might not be on my start date, right? But that doesn't mean, like, when you go sit for the boards, no one cares. No one's gonna ask to say, did you start your internship 4 days after graduation? Because that's what we expect. No one cares about that. It's not a thing, right? The only person that cares about that is you. That's your internal dialogue, right? So here's something I want you to write down. It's ranking things for yourself, because everyone's going to be looking for internships or have capabilities because of different things. And these are the 5 categories for you to think about, and then rank order them for yourself. So, and these are not in any order outside of how they came in my mind. So location is one thing. Housing is another thing. Stipend. Standardization. Across any of them.
Sorry. Turn down the volume.
So there's no.
Got this.
You have to get haunted house though. Okay, perfect. We good now. It's all good. Where was I going?
The
Just like that.
interviewer is also your interview.
Thank you. And there's no standards, right? So that's what makes it hard. So why have you making your list of 10? Not that I think you're gonna have to get through all 10, but it's just to kind of start getting used to the process. Some people will want your recommendation letters. Some people will only want references. Some people will want a philosophy. Some people will want a video of you performing. Some people will say, we're going to do that live when we get you to the second round of the interview. They're all so different. right? So make that list of 10 of places where you can be. One of the things I want you to think about is location. So when you're thinking about location, think about like, where do your parents live? Where does extended family live? Where does friends live? Is there somewhere where I could cut down on housing costs for 6 months? Because it really is just 6 months. 6 months will fly by, you know? That's a thing to think about. Let's talk about sites that students have gone to, because I think that's really helpful. Just over the past 2 to 3 years, so you can like kind of be thinking through. So we have had students go to Easter Seals Midwest, so that's in Missouri. We've also had students go to, and I can email these out afterwards too with some things. Master Musicians in Miami. I don't know if any of you remember Tori. That's where she finished her internship.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
We've had students go to Minnesota. That's where Mitchell went to Minnesota at LifeWorks. And so something interesting that he did was found a university affiliated internship that wasn't affiliated with ASU and just like talked himself in there. So he was looking at the other regions. Do not repeat this, but I have heard that students have gone to the other regions and looked at their university affiliated websites as well. So that was one of the funny things. The music therapists were like, how did you find this? You go to school where? But he loved living in Minnesota. I wouldn't want to, it's cold there. But he did it because it's only 6 months, right? We've had a student right now is in Nevada at dynamic music therapy. Aspire Music Therapy in Fort Wayne, Indiana. We have some people in Ryan's in Columbia right now, so you could go international if you had a music therapy contact. We've had a student go to Arbor Hospice in Michigan, and the Children's Center in Bethany, Oklahoma. And we've had drug addiction at Journey Pure in Tennessee. And then there are a couple ones I always like to talk about. Don't forget the California ones because they're close by. So we have a student right now at Creative Identity. Music Works is in San Diego. There's the state hospital. It's called Department of State Hospitals. So DSH is the labels for state hospitals in California. And we've had students go to one in Northern California, as well as a Tuscadero, which I think is Southern California. And then I can email you more. And every once in a while, I get ones that come across my desk. So there are a couple that have come across my desk that have stipends. So they don't have housing, but they have stipends that are about $6,000 plus mileage reimbursement. So I saw some eyes go up. So I'll be sure to I'll send them to the Gmail, and then you can just forward them out to everybody. Let's see, which one was that? It was in Florida. So they're both in Florida. You'd have to want to move to Florida. One is a hospice in Vero Beach, Florida. They also say that they have staff that are willing to provide affordable rates for housing for students, $6,000 stipend, mileage reembrsement, and free lunch during weekdays when you're working. I know, right? Yeah, listen. You told us to go hungry. There's also Trust Beach in West Palm Beach. These are not bad places to live, except right now, this week, this part of Florida. You don't live in these places. You'll get out before hurricane season. What are the chances that the hurricane will come back to that same spot in Florida next year, right? And then there are some new ones that I don't know that you would have seen on the AMTA website yet. So there's this memory care place called Silverado Memory Care. And they have offices in California, Illinois, Texas, Washington, Wisconsin, and Virginia. So I'll send the email on that because I got
to speak to us in November.
Oh, see, perfect, right? And because I got an email from them saying we're affiliated with many universities, but not yours. We've never had your students before, and they have a bunch of different ones. And then Alvarado Parkway Institute, also in San Diego. So thinking of things that are close by. Let's see, what else did I want to say? There may be a new site coming in the area, but it will probably be only coming with one position. So, just know that, right? So I'll let you know when that is available. It'll be coming with 2, but it'll be 1 for undergrad and 1 for grad start. And so it'll be 1 May-ish, June-ish start and 1 January start. So that is coming. Let's see. What else? I'll take your questions now. Those are some of the things I wanted Joe to think about. Yeah.
Because you mentioned, I know I was looking at I'm a sophomore.
Yeah.
And so is housing and stipend like kind of a rarity
Yes.
for most of them? Okay, so it's mostly just like move, live on your own, figure it out.
Yes, yes. But if housing is important, there are ones that do it. So make sure you get those in. There's a state hospital in Florida. We've had a student from here go there, as well as a lot of my good music therapy friends when I was in grad school at Tallahassee. They went there. There's actually an intern house. And so a lot of interns live there, and they also thought it was haunted. So I get all these funny stories from them.
Sounds
like
See, there should be laughter in searching for internship, not just all the tears and the, oh my gosh, I'll never make it.
Throw my laptop across the room.
I
think it's just like a lot of transition. Like we're all looking at, first of all, graduating, it's a new life.
Yeah.
There's a lot to get done, and it can feel really overwhelming. Even for somebody who's older like me, it feels incredibly overwhelming. I can only imagine what it feels like for somebody who's young.
That's why I want you to start the list. That's the whole thing. Every time you see me, you'll hear me say, "Did you do that list yet?" Though, only because I know it's overwhelming, right? And the hardest thing when you're overwhelmed is to start. So just start. Make 10. They can change. It's okay, right? The other thing is working during internship. So I worked during my internship. I didn't get anything in my internship, but I was just so glad to finally get one that said yes. It was my first one. It's like, I'll come, right? Luckily, my family lived in Houston. So from my family, I got a car and a 1-bedroom full of furniture because it was like we had the family futon that had been through all my cousins and going to college. My sister had it one time. And so there was a dining room table for my grandmother. I mean, it was literally driving all over the Houston Metroplex with a U-Haul picking up all this stuff. That car broke down every other week, but it got me where I needed to be with internship, right? And then of course sold that sucker when I got my first job. It was like, okay, we gotta get a real car. But I also worked. So the special ed school that I was at was attached to a Montessori school. And so I offered piano lessons. That was something that the internship director had set up. Many of her interns would offer piano lessons to the regular students at the Montessori school, who oftentimes had siblings in the special education school, and she let us use the music therapy room. So school got out at 2:45, and I used to do lessons from like 3 to 5:30. I could check out of my internship and just teach, right? So did that pay all my bills? No, but it certainly helped. Like I had food, I could go out. My parents weren't having to pay for every single thing. I could pay some of my bills. So think about music jobs that you can do on the side. Where we had an intern when I lived in Florida. She was working as a bartender. And we were like, that's interesting, but you have to still get sleep and learn your music, right? So think about that. Like if you're thinking of taking a second job, I always say take something that's related to music, like go get a pianist job at a church or teaching lessons, because you can have a little bit of flexibility. One of our grad students, pre-pandemic, she used to teach lessons online. So she was able to work out at her internship site because it was her lessons were on the East Coast. They used to let her check out of the internship, but still use an office room at the internship site for 2 hours to teach the lessons and stuff. So internship directors remember what it was like to be an intern, right? So if you have needs, you get to ask them, like, do your interns work before? Where are places that they've worked? Where do they live? Those types of things are okay to ask. Yeah.
I have 2 questions. One of them was like very quick, like how, as far as like hours, is it pretty much like 40 hours for internship?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like having a full-time job, which is a whole nother huge transition, because you just go to practicum for like 1 or 2 hours a week. You get to see the best of the best. And then like you show up for internship and you're there all day, right? It doesn't mean that you're seeing clients for 40 hours a week, but you are like all of a sudden the music therapist. And that's a whole different experience. There are some sites that will allow you to go part-time. That's just something that you can talk out with your internship director so that it takes longer, but that can accommodate a work schedule or needs sometimes. Yeah.
And
that's
then my other question, if you're looking specifically for like a specific population, how soon would you like recommend reaching out to like the people that work there or like making a connection with those people?
Yeah, so usually a year out from when you're wanting to go is when you start looking. The hard part is that not everyone has the same start date. So you would just want to look at where is their start date and when do they accept applications, because there's no standardization in that space. That's what makes it hard. This summer, they had a virtual internship fair. So I will also email that to you because it has the links to all the internship directors that signed up for that. I think there were maybe like 20. So there will be some new names that you've heard in the area, like Piper was there from Banner, but then there'll be some others that you maybe haven't heard of. So I'll send that as another resource. Why they did it in the summer when everyone.
Yeah, I don't even know that I got an alert for that.
I don't think they did.
Yeah,
I
it
just,
was, I saw things about it, but it was at a time of day that I was like, I'm in the middle of work.
Oh, I would have
I can't
totally
take
taken
off
off or
work.
something like that. I never thought
Gotta
something
pay
like
tuition.
that.
yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah, but they have it that the Google Doc, I checked it last night.
Okay.
The Google Doc is still there with the links. It tells you the population,
All right.
where it is, who's the music therapist. So that'll be helpful. Other questions, especially for my mass categories.
Yes, so international might be an option for me. So other than, a board certified music therapist having to supervise us, is there anything?
Yes,
That,
so, yes.
yeah.
Did you want to finish or should I just jump in?
Just in case. So like,
Uh-huh.
is there anything I should know in case, because of course, if I go out of the country, there might be different like standards and criteria. So.
It all belongs with me.
Yeah.
Yes. So there's the national rosters, right? But there's also university affiliated. University affiliate could be anywhere, right? So that international internship would be university affiliated. And so the first step is that you would have to put me in touch with the internship director, because then I have a conversation with them about their sites. Have they had students before? Are they board certified? And do they have enough hours that you can get work done, right? And then if they do, I also talk to them. An internship site at ASU, for you to be able to go to an internship, there has to be a legal agreement on file with that person's site and the university. So if the person's in private practice, that's easy. Usually it is when someone works for a hospital system or some other, like the VA is really hard, but ASU is used to that. A site sometimes won't accept the ASU contract, they want to give their own. And then there's just a back and forth that has nothing to do with any of us. That's up at the top with the Office of Clinical Partnership and the legal team. And so that takes time. So that's another reason that we like try to start those things in advance. And then there's a proposal process. And so they fill out the proposal and then we talk about it. And then if we say yes from ASU, then the therapist is allowed to open up applications and start seeing students, right? So I have had students, we've had students before that are not from Arizona, that they're from another region, and their parent is like, I saw a music therapist working at such and such, and then they're like, do you take interns? And they're like, well, if I talk to your university. So sometimes there are music therapists that are practicing. That is how one of our new local ones is coming about, is some students asking, do you take interns? And them saying, ooh, maybe, yeah, right, tell me more. And then we start that process of becoming a site, yeah? So that's the process for anyone who doesn't have an agreement with ASU, and if they're not a national roster site, meaning that all students can apply. Yeah. Other questions?
Interview tips.
Oh,
I'm getting ready, I think, pretty soon for the interviewing process. I'm really nervous about what's expected, and Dr. Timeline went through a little bit of it, but I'm just really nervous.
yeah. So one is definitely take it serious. No, okay, but you're laughing, except I have received in the past emails back saying, your student came in cutoff shorts.
Oh,
It
Oh,
did-
no, that was not.
See, thank you. I love the applause, the applause. I said applause, right? So the dress is appropriate. I often tell students that my door is always open for an in-person meeting or Zoom chat. I actually usually encourage you to come and chat before your live interview, just because we can, again, give you tips. Like I had a student who came in and I was like, well, tell me what songs you're playing. And they had a 3-chord song, but it was it was like kind of an easy, like kiddie song. And I was like, but that doesn't match the population that you're gonna interview with. What other 3-chord songs do you know that adults know, right? Right, because we know a lot of 3-chord songs, right? So that, and she did get that internship. I'm not saying that's the only reason she got it, but I am saying that was a little pitfall that we could find before she accidentally went in with the wrong thing, you know? If you're applying at Banner, I always tell students to come and talk. There in the past, she didn't used to take any ASU students. We're now on a roll where ASU students are coming in, but it's very competitive and we don't have a medical practicum, but it doesn't mean that you can't get there because the last 3 or 4 students have been ASU. But I like for us to just chat about how do you prepare for that interview space, right? If you're sending videos off to someone, you can always have us look at it as your faculty, but also have your friends look at it. I had a student who had gone through, she had her list of 10, but she never would come and meet with me before any of the interviews. And they were like mostly all national roster and stuff. And I was like, you know, I might know the people. I used to work as an internship person. Like, I might have some tips. So it was only after like the 4th or 5th rejection that she was like, I don't know what's wrong. And so I was like, why don't you bring in your materials for me so I could look at them? So she's showing me her video and I'm watching the video like this. And I was like, so what's wrong with this? And she was like, I don't know. I should have picked a different song. And I was like, no, my head is like this. Your video is like this. It's turned. You have to turn your video upright. But when you're living in that, you don't see it, you don't notice it, right? You're just exactly. So there's probably a good chance that those videos were going to the bottom of the pile because it wasn't up to par, right? Resumes. So what goes on your resume? It should be 1 or 2 pages. Everything you've done related to music therapy. So you'll put all your practicums. If you're a senior, you still put down what we did in the junior class. Look at that. Do you have an example? Yes, yes, yes. Perfect. Yes. And everyone can make theirs look the same or similar, but that's what you want. You want your clinical experience. And then if you've ever done any volunteer work, I know Professor Sarah's got one that's coming up soon. She has not probably told you about it yet with Phoenix Children's Hospital. It's about, I think I don't remember, but we also used to do them with Camp Kangaroo with the bereavement camp for Seasons Hospice back in the day. So there are some times where you might volunteer. If you're an officer in the club, any service work that y'all do, put it on the resume, right? And then if you have space, any work that you've done that would be beneficial, and almost all of it can be, right? So like, even if you did work as a musician, you could put that on there. Sometimes people do ABA therapy, you could put that on there. Even if you nanny, there are things that are helpful from those experiences, but that's that. And then any further feedback, you could also go to career services and they'd help you knock it out really pretty.
Professor Sarah proofed mine for HOH.
Good.
She's really good at it too, very thorough, just bring it in, children, so.
Yeah, looks good. I like all of those.
Yep, that's Bailey's, and then mine is still in process. Mine's the other one, but
Yeah.
only one person sent me one, so I'm
So-
like, well, guess I'll pull mine.
Professor, if we email you for the meeting prior to our interview, then you'll get back to us and schedule, or you prefer, is there an open office hours?
So the best way to reach me now, because I have this dean's role, is to email myself and Caitlin. Caitlin handles my schedule. It was caitlin.baker@asu.edu. CAITLYN.baker@asu.edu. A really good time for us to meet usually is between the Monday, Wednesday class. So y'all have some of you have class at 10:30. Some of you have class at 10. No, none of you have class.
We have
What day?
psych and music.
That's what I'm
me
saying,
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was like,
Seniorship psych and music.
yes.
Most of us.
Thank you, Jocelyn. So, an automatic time that's very easy to meet is 15 minutes before when I'm getting out of my 9 o'clock class, right? That shift change space is an easy time to find on the calendar. Otherwise, email Caitlin. Even if that's the time you want, still email
Even,
Caitlin.
yeah, I was gonna say, even if I'm not in that class, but I can make that
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
No
Because I'm
problem.
usually coming out of here with my friends in the back. Yeah. Other questions that y'all have or thoughts or concerns? Okay, the point of internship is to, yes. You can do it. I look forward to seeing your lists. And then we can talk more about each person as you're going through on your journey. Yeah? Yay, thanks for letting me stop you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for this.
You can do it. Internship can have laughter. And then I'm gonna be forwarding you just a bunch of stuff that I found in my email yesterday.
Yay.
Perfect.
Appreciate it. Thank
You're
you so much.
welcome. Bye, y'all.
Have a good day.
Thanks. Have a
Thank you,
good
Jen.
weekend.
All right. So on that note, just a review of where do we look for them. You can always look national roster. I personally hate this website. I'll be dead on it. I think it's stupid. I don't like the way that the search engine runs. And it severely needs to be updated.
Yeah,
Ancient. It is ancient.
back in the days of HTML.
So that's a place to look, just to keep in mind. I looked into surrounding states when I was making my list. Arizona has 2 national rosters. California has the most. I think Utah has 3 national rosters. New Mexico has none. Colorado has 2. Nevada has none. National roster. If I remember correctly. But that's a place you can look. Just keep in mind those are more competitive to get into because those are open to the entire country. So if you're applying national roster, know that you are going to be competing against everybody, not just your local Arizona students. And then, like Dr. Belgrave was saying, there's university affiliated sites. The current list that she gave in the internship class right now is 3 places: Neurological Music Therapy Services of Arizona, Higher Octave Healing, and Mellow Music Therapy.
Music therapy. Don't just search Mellow Music. It's
Yeah.
the lady that gives voiceover classes.
Beautiful.
Just like, why
Mellow
is this
Music
a
Therapy
music
is in
therapy?
Mesa. Higher Octave Healing is, as we all know, up the street. Neurological Music Therapy Services of Arizona is in Phoenix. Yes.
Do most of those places only take 1?
Yes.
Well,
no,
higher
actually,
octave healing.
They take about.
Higher octave healing
Yeah.
only takes like 3.
And
Yeah.
they do
They
they
space
do
it
it
out
multiple times a year.
Oh,
Out of
okay.
all of these,
3 times a year.
Higher Octave Healing has the most start dates.
You can go on their website as well and look under internship and they have a list of their start dates. So
Yeah.
you can see for the next.
They usually take one like May, then I think
There's
one
one in
July,
January.
August, and then they take one in October. Like they take interns at multiple points in the year. They have been the one that I've seen that takes like the most throughout the year. Mela, I think, is only once every
There's
6
only
months,
one there,
and there's
yeah.
only one spot there. I don't know much about neurological music therapy services. They don't have a start date per se. The only one I've seen is January, but that might just be for this upcoming.
That's just okay.
Do we know anyone that went there?
Aiden, my boyfriend, actually volunteered there in high school, so I have a little more info. He really enjoyed the experience when he was there. They work mainly with autistic children. That's the main population there, but obviously some other developmental delays fall in there as well. And interestingly enough, if you want to go international, they do have a Toronto partner.
Yes,
Oh,
they
wow.
do. Also to keep in mind about them from my current practicum supervisor, she said, just be prepared for that one. Know that it's NMT. You have to want to know NMT to like really enjoy your time there. So if you want NMT training, this is a good place to head. But I mean, internships are internships. We get them to finish and to learn. So, but just keep that in mind going in. If you're like, I hate NMT, I don't like it, maybe not the option for you. And then of course there's always Google. Just Google music therapy internships and see what pops up. And just email a bunch of people. I know Maggie's like gone through lists of emails and reached out and be like, do you take interns? Do you take interns? Do you
Do
take
you want
interns?
an
Do you want one? You want me? So speaking of lists, this is my list that I submitted to Dr. Belgrave. I'm a very type A person. There's no format for this list. My list includes the site name, the location of where it's at, the population that you'd typically be working with, the start date or estated start date, my interest level on a scale of 1 to 5. As you can see, I also color coded it. Green is like for sure apply to those first. Yellow is like back up. Red is like, I don't really want that, but I needed one more. And then I have notes like new internship site, no stipend, work with interdisciplinary team. The one for primary children, that's a national roster. I also have asterisks on all national rosters to remind me that that's what that is. Primary Children's has a free public transit pass that they'll give you, a $500 stipend, strong focus on teaching and research, and it's one of the best children's hospitals in the country, so I made sure to put all those things on that, and other different notes. As you can see, like inpatient psych with options for forensic and non-forensic.
Hierarchy of healing also has a stipend.
$500.
Yeah.
And then it gets paid in two installments.
Yes, so you get one at the beginning, one at the end.
One up front and one at the end.
And if you, I don't know if this is still a thing, but if you accept an internship that does not have a stipend, there is a little known about application through career services, creative career services, where they will pay your stipend.
Period. Thank you, Joe. Can you get that information to me?
I will do my best. I'll find it in my email.
Is
It's from a couple of years ago.
Is that like from ASU?
Period.
It's from ASU.
Also, sometimes AMTA will do scholarships for internships, so keep an eye out on the AMTAS
Yeah, keep an eye out.
Instagram.
They're also bankrupt.
AMTA is filing for bankruptcy, so maybe not then.
Oh my god. No.
Listen, I've been going through it. It's okay. Resumes. So we talked a little about this, Dr. Belgrave. Just in general, resumes need to be very clear and present your best clinical stuff. With music therapy, and I'm making an assumption, the likelihood of your resume going through a machine is a little bit less than it going through an actual person, because it's not like a high mass job application. So, but still, good pointers to have, not an excessive amount of color, not too busy, just very clear and concise what you got. We got advice from, so the Western region student organization did a Zoom internship meeting at the beginning of this year. And in that meeting, the two professionals that were talking to us gave advice, try to keep it to a page, your resume. At this point, I'm like, page and a half. Page and a half, 2 pages probably is your best bet if necessary. And then like Dr. Belgrave was saying, you want to list all clinical experience and supervisors. That includes seniors, the project we did at Tempe Adult Day Center. That includes that as well. So like I showed earlier, this is my working, it's not done. This is my working resume right now. So I've got my education, who the program supervisor is, all my clinical supervisors, contact information up front, the different clinical experiences, my leadership experience, the different skills that I bring to it. So at my current practicum placement, we're learning how to do soap notes. So by the end of this, I'll have experience with soap notes. My musical strengths, who I've studied under. I need to add my current job of teaching lessons and teaching groups. But that's kind of the idea on mine. You can see the Tempe Adult Day Center right here, practicum placements. This is Bailey's. Bailey graduated last year. She's currently an internship. She so lovingly sent her resume that she used last year. You can see she included her employment. She worked at a swim school. It's important because she worked with kids. She has experience working with groups and teaching. So then she's got her professional memberships, professional training. I've heard from Professor Sarah that it's a good idea to maybe get CPR certified, and ASU does that.
I just know you mine too.
Ah, sweet, I'll pull that up. So ASU does CPR certification at the fitness center for, do we remember how
It's
much?
about $45.
$45?
Really?
It's Red Cross,
And
usually
usually
Red Cross costs about 100, so ASU subsidizes about 50%.
That's sweet. How often do you have to renew that?
It's not every 3 years. too.
I think CPR is 3 years and first aid is every 2.
Sounds
Which
good.
is a pain in the
Um,
ass.
So now I wanted to get into this. So I sent out a lovely Google form to all the alumni. Total of 4 people filled it out. Woo! But those 4 people did have good things to say. So our first person that filled it out was Bailey.
Yes.
Her experience was that she took a break that was more than 3 months before starting her internship. So after graduation, she waited over 3 months to start internship. Her advice was this: start early and take time with applications because the questions are not something to be drafted up quickly. They do take a lot of critical thinking. I think I spent a couple of weeks crafting the answers to application questions in a Google Doc before copying and pasting my final answers on the application. Always have multiple options lined up, always have a backup because internship rejection is no joke and it hurts. Be yourself in your interview and try to be, don't try to be who you think the site or supervisor wants you to be. Just be you because the real you is going to come out no matter what when you spend 40 hours a week at an internship site. And then she sent her resume, and then her tips and advice for internship in general was that it is okay to wait. I waited 9 months between graduating and beginning my internship, and that break was very much needed because undergrad really burned me out. That 9 months really showed me how much I love music therapy because I felt so empty without it. And now with my internship, I feel so fulfilled. It also grounded me and gave me time and space to prepare for internship, which was so needed because internship is hard. It can be super draining to work so hard and receive no monetary gain. What has helped me is daily affirmations and reminding myself what I'm working towards. And then her advice to fall of 22 and spring 23 grads is the resume attached is the resume that I sent out to my potential internship sites a little over a year ago. It's not very current. But as for other words of wisdom, my best advice is to stay on top of it because the internship process is long, tiring, and confusing. Taking it really slow and not procrastinating will help because internship sites have often application deadlines 6 months before start. So, like I said, if you haven't started, start now because some of those sites that have a May start, their application deadlines in the next few weeks. That was Bailey. The next one that sent in was Ryan. Ryan's in Columbia. He was the president of MTSO in fall 2020 and just spring 21. So he's at 2 different hospitals in Columbia. And his tips and advice for applications and interviews was, of course, we're all trying to get an internship, but remember that you're interviewing them too. The best advice I got was that your supervisor is more important than your population. Unless you know, you definitely don't want to work with a certain population for a reason besides fear. You might end up loving it. Like me, and the Berkeley student with NICU. Even if you didn't end up loving it, it's temporary. And after internship, you can apply for jobs in different populations. But your relationship with your supervisor will be one of the biggest factors on how much you enjoy your internship as well as how much you learn and grow. So his advice was focus more on who's your supervisor. Do you like them? Because they're going to be in charge of you for the next 6 months. His tips and advice in general was if you can afford it, consider doing 9 months at about 25 hours a week. Doing your internship abroad might make this more feasible if you find a country where the dollar stretches farther. Less hours weekly allows you to have less stress and absorb more. And then his overall words of wisdom to the graduating students is don't get discouraged if you don't get hired and don't limit yourself. I interviewed for 3 opportunities in Arizona and didn't get any of them. Then I ended up in Columbia, which was way more exciting for me than the Arizona options. I personally cannot afford to live by this. So
Yeah, for him it worked out. His girlfriend was there.
Kinda had a good deal going.
Neat for him, yeah.
Fate correcting.
Thank you for Ryan, that's right. And still for all of us.
I'm gonna skip this one because the next one's from my current supervisor. And she's
Yeah.
got more to add to hers. So this person started their internship right after or shortly after graduation. They're at Easter Seals Midwest in Missouri. I didn't take names on this. So I'm not sure who this is. Oh, it's Elmira. Elmira said, for any tips or advice about applications and interviews, apply to your favorite site first. I didn't know that you typically must accept your first offer. So like once you get an offer, you typically just accept it and you have to take back all your other applications. She said, I got 2 offers at this almost the same time, and I didn't know what to choose first. So go for the one you want first and accept it as soon as an offer comes in. Her tips and advice was a positive atmosphere during the interview might be important for other highly sensitive people like me. You have to work with those people for the next 6 months. A friendly atmosphere was a top priority for me, and go for your preferred population. And then my current supervisor is Peyton Wayne. She's at Lexington Services in Phoenix. I asked her if she would give us her advice as a student, and then she will be a upcoming internship site. So I asked her to give her feelings on what are you looking for in a candidate and what would you expect with an intern coming to you. Her experience was she did an internship at Upward for Children and Families. That internship doesn't exist anymore, but she started like right after graduation, and she said, tips, show up to your interview a little early, dress professionally, practice common interview questions ahead of time so that you sound eloquent, brush up on musical or spot writing skills, and be overly kind. Tips and advice in general, use this time to put forth your full and best effort. I made a lot of materials and internships that I was able to take with me to jobs after and learned a lot. Be super professional and kind to your supervisor because you can learn a lot from them and they will be your friend for life and help you with future job networking if you stay connected. Overall advice to graduating students, be open to learning new skills, trialing new things, ask your supervisor tons of questions, take lots of notes, all caps. Make a ton of material and put it in your toolbox, network, gain confidence in yourself and abilities, study for the board exam during internship and ask your supervisor for help, and most importantly, have fun. And then she also had to say this about internship. She sent me a long email, and then I will turn it over to Sarah, because Sarah has talked to the professional in the area that also gives some advice. So the things she said that she's looking for in applicants: hardworking, not needing to be asked over and over again to do something; kind and personable, easy to work with, and good with kids. Lexington is kids placement, mostly autistic children. Punctual and professional, active listener, willing to apply supervisors' critiques to their work. Someone who is wanting to succeed at being a good therapist and willing to work hard to do so. Someone who takes notes and asks questions. Someone who's good with musical and interpersonal skills. Someone who will get their internship done in a timely manner and is communicative. Someone willing to try new things and get out of their comfort zone. Someone who is proactive in developing new interventions, studying for their exam, etc. Best way to prepare, she said, is to get better at your musical skills, especially guitar and voice. Those are the ones you'll use the most. Get better with communicating with parents, supervisors, and kids. Practice adapting interventions and creating new ones. Look for MT certificates that you can get to expand your knowledge. For example, Peyton is an NMT, and she's also an ABA behavior tech, which helps tremendously with kids and makes me more credible. So if you can find certifications that will take you as a student at continuing education credits, sometimes you can take those before getting the degree. Start looking into those and about how much those cost to take those courses. Start asking questions, networking, and studying for the exam. Practice interview questions and medical jargon for soap notes and speaking with parents. Her advice was get an internship in the population you want to work with long term. Pick an internship that has a supervisor that you will learn a lot from and get good job networking from. Utilize internship as a time to try new things. Develop your skills and toolbox. Ask lots of questions. Build confidence in yourself. Enjoy the journey. Get certificates in other areas. Start shopping around at the dollar store, Goodwill, Lakeshore, etc. for materials if you're working with kids. Her room is like Christmas to me. Literally every week we go, she's like, you go to the dollar store, check out Target dollar spot. Like you can find things. And yesterday I was at Target and I found something and I was like, I have an idea.
My mom is a teacher, visually impaired, so I know all about how to get crafty with the dollar store, man.
Yes.
Yes.
Pinterest will be your best friend as well if you're working with kids. And start studying for the board exam. Take Stephanie at Music for Kiddos. That's Instagram. If you're not following Music for Kiddos and you want to work with kids, follow her on Instagram. She also has a podcast. She has continuing ed courses, and she also gives a lot of free material. I get emails every month with a free new song. It's really easy to learn, and they're all really cute. And that's all the advice that she gave me. Sarah, do you want to share your advice on Marty?
Yeah. So Marty Finch is a music therapist in the area. She's a private contractor, but she also works at Phoenix School for the Blind, Foundation of Blind Children. Michaela, I know you were aware of that. And I got the opportunity to shadow her a few times, so she's become a really good friend of mine. She's been in the field for decades. She's amazing. And she's coming to speak in a few weeks. You should definitely not miss that. But she sent me some things to keep in mind more during your internship to just think about. One, track your own hours. She said that when she was in her internship, there was inconsistency because she was tracking, but so was her supervisor. And there was like a 2-week period that was like unaccounted for. So just track your own hours so that you know where you're at. So if something like that happens, it doesn't set you back. 2, don't overwork your session planning or like preparing for your sessions. Trust yourself. Practice it once or twice. Call it good. Go in knowing what you're doing, but also with the mindset that you can be flexible. So manage your time and hours. You don't want to be doing a lot of extra work outside of your actual internship. 3, make 2 copies of all sessions. I don't really remember why she said this. She called me yesterday, but she said just to have on file. Sure.
I think it's that same idea that Peyton has, like just have your materials
Yeah.
ready, because a lot of things you do for one client will work for someone down
There
the
you
road.
go. And then the last one, use any resources you can get for free. So a lot of the times she was saying in certain sites, if you want to like print something or make a project or something, do it and do 2 of it so that you have an extra one to use in the future. Because then it's less cost on you. Yeah, so that's Marty. You will hear more from her soon. She's phenomenal.
I love her, and I've already met
She's
her.
so cute.
She's going to be giving us like music therapy business tips, so how to create a contract with places that don't have music therapists. Which, talking with professionals this year, all of them have had the sentiment that maybe you should take some business classes. I'm like, great. Wish someone told me that when I was a freshman.
Yeah, she started her own business, and she's very prominent about, as a music therapist, knowing your worth and what you should be paid. So
Yes.
she's really good.
That is a big one, knowing your worth and being paid. So if you're like, how do I network properly? How do I create a business contract? Do not miss Marty's talk, because she will give a phenomenal one. Any questions? I'm going to pull up Maggie's resume. Yes.
Because I know Dr. Belgrave had mentioned banners. So is taking something like, if you were interested in doing that, or like doing something in the medical field, like taking classes. I know there's that like hospice and palliative care certificate. Would that be something that like as seniors or as like older, do you think that would be beneficial?
I mean, it
I
can't
can't
hurt
hurt
you.
you.
Stuff that's competitive.
So what I would say with that is look at, it's a certificate through ASU.
Yeah.
Look at like the credit hours. Look at it if it's something that's gonna fit in your life. And I would say that's absolutely beneficial. It's just another thing to add to your resume.
But even the classes, I mean, if you get their certificate, I feel like would be.
Then this is what I'll tell you to do. You can be like kind of sneaky if you don't finish your certificate. You can write on your resume add another section that says like particular interest classes or something like that, and that's where you can list those classes. And I would highly suggest that if you don't think you'll finish the certificate, but you'll take the classes, get a good grade, and then write, I got an A+.
So this is Maggie's. You can see she's got her education, her work experience at Barrett. She's a event programmer. That's really important to put on there because she has to coordinate with a lot of people. And shows that Maggie is very responsible and is able to coordinate and set up things without needing any direction.
I also stayed in the job for 3 years, so that
Yes.
always looks good too. If you have a long-term job, even if it's not okay, it should show like I stick with things.
Yeah.
She volunteers at the JCC.
It's not volunteer, it's work. They pay me.
Sorry.
I know what I'm worth.
She said, "Hey, don't diminish my job." So this is her work at the JCC. Being a camp counselor there, those kids, I love hearing her stories from the JCC. And then she was a piano instructor, and then you can see all of her clinical experience here.
Which might probably get dragged to the top.
Yeah.
Or this is technically like right now just my work resume too. So you can have multiple resumes.
Here's all of her leadership experience. And then her certifications. So CPR, fingerprint clearance card, first aid.
I would say like it's actually pretty nice to add your certifications on there, especially your fingerprint clearance card. It's kind of obvious, like we're all supposed to have one by the time we graduate, but it's always nice, like then they don't have to ask.
What about COVID vaccination?
Because you
that's
know
not
what?
required
I
too.
don't know about adding
I
on
would-
resume.
I would wait until the sites asks for it, because that's more personal medical information,
Yeah.
and you don't know how many eyes are going to see your resume. And because every site is different on who requires it or not, I can tell you this right now, HOH requires it,
Most of
Banner's
them
gonna
do,
require it, hospice will probably require it, most places are. it is hard pressed to find one that isn't going to require your vaccination.
So I have like another quick resume note. You should do your research about this and research what a creative resume is versus just like a regular resume and make an educated decision on whether or not you're gonna create a creative resume. If you're ever applying for a job that's not a music therapy internship, it's just like a job, I would suggest against a creative resume only because when you make a resume like on Canva and stuff, they don't run through those like word reader programs as well. But obviously, like this is a creative field. So if this is what you're creating a resume for, make your own personal judgment on what you think is best.
And
But don't add your picture.
yeah, no picture.
Canva will ask you to add your picture. Do not add your picture. That's my advice.
I never understood that.
I never understood that too, but my sister told me that, and she was right. Like,
Yeah. Just remember there's career services on campus if you want people to help you build a resume. Any of the staff try to schedule with them to be like, hey, can you just take a look at this and see if I'm on the right track? Just correct me
another
if I'm
quick
wrong.
thing, go in tonight. If you don't have one, make one. Update your LinkedIn.
Yes, LinkedIn is big.
Connect with all the music therapists.
I have connected with a lot of people because if you want to start networking, you want to start networking now, especially if you're a junior or sophomore. Start getting connected with groups now, because what can happen is 2 years or a year down the road when you're looking at internships, those people you connected with, you can reach out and be like, hey, would you ever be interested in taking on an intern? And would you be willing to set up a partnership with ASU?
At least connect with like your current practicum supervisor or right after you end. I don't know if there's like rules. I doubt there is like ethical rules about that, but I think it's fine.
Yeah, there's no harm in emailing someone that you've worked with in the past or texting them and being like, hey, you want to go out and get coffee or go out for lunch and just catch up and then try to find out ways that you can get involved. Because the big thing that is one of the biggest downfalls with music therapy and that we can start trying to change is networking is not really great in the state. So if you can connect and show them that you're a dedicated and willing student, then their perception of taking an intern will change and it could pave ways for people in the future. So I would start connecting with people. If you would like to see any resumes or anything, I would more than comfortable sharing mine and emailing that out if you want that as a resource. Just let us know. But I think that's about all for internship for October, just so you get a preview of what this next month looks like. No meeting next week because we're gearing up for our 2-day October break. It's too long on this.
We actually do have class on Wednesday though.
Yes, I know. I just realized that while I was looking at this. There's class Wednesday. Sorry to get your hopes up. So October 7th, no meeting. I will be here though. Like, I'll probably just come in here and hang out and chill and work on stuff. So there's no official meeting, but people will be around. 14th, like I said, music therapy business basics with Marty. The 21st, we're focusing our jam session on building our rep list. So it is never too early to start building the rep list since they want you to have 100 songs by the time you graduate. I recently updated mine and I realized that it needs some serious work. So 21st, we're going to ask everyone to come with their rep list and at least 5 songs everyone to come with to share. There might be some overlap, but try to think of 5 songs that maybe you haven't heard played a lot in classes or whatever. And then the 28th, this calendar's wrong. I'm sorry. The 28th, we are doing card making for veterans. So that we're going to make cards for Veterans Day and we're going to try to get them to the VA hospital. So we'll have music going, we'll have craft paper and all kinds of fun stuff. So it's literally very chill. Just come have fun, make some crafts. That's the month of October for the club. Reminder, dues are due on Monday, 10 p.m. to Aggie. If you paid your dues today and haven't gotten a t-shirt, I have t-shirts. Very limited stock, but I have t-shirts. Yes.
I'm just gonna put my gun ball
For the 21st, are you making guitar?
Whatever you want.
So
Guitar, ukulele, piano.
Bring your piano.
Bring a keyboard.
Yeah,
Figure
it's
it
like
out.
totem.
No, I want a baby grand.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there's guitars here, there's ukuleles here, there's obviously piano here. Bring whatever you got on your rep list.
I'm gonna bring my tenor ukulele.
Because the idea is that you have something in everything. I will say this, most sites will just most likely be a guitar and voice. The site I'm at right now for practicum has piano, so that's because it's in a stationary room. Most of the time you'll be moving around a lot, so keyboard and piano is not really feasible unless you have a stationary space. But it's still good to have those on your list because depending on where you interview and do internship, they'll be like, so play me something on the piano, and you're like, wait, what? I haven't touched that in a minute. That's October. Any more questions, comments, concerns?
Oh, I do have something to say actually. So I know we talked about networking, so I'll add something to it. Like my case, I emailed a local music therapist in my hometown. I think you shouldn't feel afraid to ask and reach out. And she agreed to take an intern. Possibly in Tucson. It's in Tucson.
Yeah. So it's things like this, like even just a small email. And if they say, no, I don't want an intern.
That's what I'm doing. That's fine.
Yeah.
Thank you though.
I mean, it's whatever, but then you have a connection. So future jobs.
Even if they don't take an intern, they might push you to someone that does. That's what
But you
Marty
know
did,
what?
yeah.
My colleague knows of a place that's wanting to take an intern. They just haven't reached out to the university yet. If you didn't know this already, music therapists are notoriously bad at communicating.
Yeah.
So take initiative, and nothing looks as good as reaching out first and putting yourself and saying, I believe in myself. I know that I'm a good candidate and I know you want me. And try to network with people. We're going to try to have opportunities here in the future. I want to connect more with the regional and national organizations next semester. We're trying to set those up. I want to talk to Marty about connecting with the Arizona Music Therapy Association. If you don't know, there is an association for Arizona music therapists. They have a directory on their site. If you want to go through and just start emailing them to connect with them and hear about their jobs, go for it. They might have some tips and tricks for you to get prepared. Even if it's not internship, it could be things like take this certification, it'll make you look better, or we would want to hire you in the future, take the certification and prepare yourself and talk to us when you're ready for a job. So
I've
never
also
too early to start.
gotten to do some networking going to conferences. So the AVMTA conference is free for students. And it's usually online. So there's some kind of online version. And there's a couple other organizations that are music therapy based on the East Coast. Also knows to Jocelyn.
Yeah.
A lot of those are free or like $5 for the year. And then you can put that on your resume as you're an associate.
There's also start following a bunch of Instagrams of music therapists, start following a bunch of Facebook groups. Like I don't use Facebook a whole lot, but I use it for professional reasons because a lot of music therapists aren't on Facebook still. I'm a part of like songwriting groups, song share groups, job groups, just advice groups. Get into them as soon as possible because I've gotten ideas for assignments for practicum before from those groups, and it's been really beneficial. If you didn't know, let me just verify on my calendar this. AMTA is doing a online symposium conference. They have specifically a student event on a Sunday morning. And keep in mind they're on East Coast time, so sorry. Okay, so it's at 10 o'clock their time, which will be 7 a.m.
What
Oh,
what's the date?
Sunday, November 13th.
I think daylight savings is past. So I
Oh
think
yeah,
it's just
so it'd
2
probably
hours.
be
Thank you, East Coast.
8 a.m.
8 a.m. So
Okay.
it's specifically for students. It's
You
free.
don't need to get rid of it. I don't live there.
What day is it? The 16th?
It is the 13th of
13th.
November.
You're in charge of it.
Let me.
Sarah, you are in charge of the entire rest of the
Yes,
world,
I guess
and
so.
you need to get rid of daylight savings.
I will try my best.
Let me see just really quick. Yes, so they're doing the music therapy it's a student passages during the AMTA virtual symposium, November 13th, 2022, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. It is free. I think we're on Mountain West. Pacific goes
Oh,
an
yeah,
hour.
sorry.
So it's going to be a music therapy population roundtable discussion. What music therapy means for our future, professionalism, progress, and community engagement. Learn more about a specific music therapy population from student leaders and professionals. Great networking opportunity. It's on Zoom. I'm gonna literally show up with my camera off and my pajamas on.
Coffee.
And
Yeah,
coffee,
like
yeah.
get things done.
Yeah, sometimes I even just listen in on that stuff, cause it's not like you can interact anyway. You're doing something else.
Yeah, it's just literally, it's just listening. And then if you're like, ooh, I have a question, or maybe you find a professional that you're like, I want to do what you do, then you can get in contact with them and start a communication. Like, how'd you get where you are? Tell me about that. Yeah, networking is going to be the biggest open door for internship, because unfortunately it's not like searching up a tech internship and there's like 12 million options.
And you're bound to get something somehow, somewhere.
Yeah, so rely on each other, never stop looking, send things other people's way, do what you can.
We are each other's resources.
I think that's about it, if no one else has any questions. Next week, no meeting. Week after, Marty's coming and speaking to us.
Don't miss
it.
Marty, she's
I
phenomenal.
will be there.
She
wish
sounds
she was my
amazing. Bye, guys. If you didn't check in with Sarah,
I got everyone.
you're good. We're all
I
good.
got all of you.
Do
we still need more guest speakers?
No, we're good for fall, spring, yes.
Well, here's. I know the music representatives for children.
Yeah.
And she's phenomenal. She